Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Tuesday morning, March the 29th. I'm glad to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet radio streaming broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And chat room is open. I did pop the link into there when I wanted to finish up talking about. This is an article from mudrashram.com. It's When You Grow Up in a Dysfunctional Family by George A. Boyd. We've been on this for weeks now. But it's been, so I think, some good information regarding dysfunctional families, healthy families, what are the roles that people will sometimes play within these families, and children will sometimes take on or be forced to take on a dysfunctional home. And I find it very good information for myself. So I just wanted to pass it on to everybody else. And so, yeah, hopefully everybody's getting something out of this, and I'm back to my regular schedule now, so hopefully I can maintain it with everything else that I'm doing, and we'll just give it a try. But I'm feeling a lot better. Got over that cold, and so I'm feeling a lot better than I was about a month ago, so it's good. Yeah, thanks, everybody, for tuning into my shows. I appreciate it. I'm not a counselor or therapist. I'm just a private citizen paying to do my shows. I just say this on every show so everybody knows, right? And I'm just a survivor of child abuse, and I'm also an advocate, standing up against child abuse. So I just wanted to be another voice out here speaking out against abuse, standing up for child rights, and also to discuss and talk about the issues surrounding adult survivor, issues, people who have survived child abuse. It's horrific. There's so many of us, and I just thought, well, I don't mind, sharing what I find, that's helpful for me in my healing journey. And hopefully it will help somebody else out there who's on their healing journey, who may not have anybody to talk to or may not want to talk to anybody about it, but then they can tune into my show and get a little bit of validation and, say, oh, I've been through that. That's, or I've experienced something similar to that, and just to know that they're not alone. There is help out there. And just to be another voice of hope for people, just to say, to be encouraging, right? That's the whole issue. We all need encouragement. And I have my sources of encouragement. And I have a lot of good friends who help me out throughout the week, throughout the day. It's awesome. These people in my life, my good friends, and, who care about me and genuinely care, right? So it's good to reach out when we can. Sometimes we don't have anybody to talk to about these things. And so, it's sad. It's a sad place to be. And so I just wanted to be another voice out here for people, who may be experiencing this stuff. And, because I have a lot of, sources of people in my life who do that for me. You know what I mean? They are, as soon as I started to reach out, all these hands started reaching out to me and, pulling me along, saying, you can do it. This has been a healing journey I've been on for about 4 years now. So it's just awesome. I have my good friend Gypsy Witch here in the chat room with me, and I'm glad you could be here. That's awesome. So this, so you have to listen to my shows at your own discretion. I'm talking about abuse. Abuse is a sensitive subject, and all of my shows are, sensitive material for most people. So if you think that the topics of abuse of any type or any kind might bother you, then you have to listen at your own discretion, right? And young people under the age of 18, I ask that you have permission to listen to my shows, and mainly because I don't know how young the people are who are listening to my shows. So excuse me, age appropriately, right? I mean, if you have an adult or someone listen to the show with you, just to make sure that it's something that you should be listening to, age appropriately. And then, if you have questions or, you wonder what I'm talking about, saying, well, why is that lady talking about all that stuff? And, if you have someone who can listen to the show with you, they may be able to help you find the answers to those questions. That's a big a big issue, right? Some people, the topics of abuse are just not talked about. That's the issue. And nobody really wants to talk about abuse or what happens to survivors who do survive the abuse and then grow up to be adults and things that can happen in their life. Not very many people talk about those things. And so, young people and, young children, small children may wonder, why I'm talking about all this and what this all means. So that's why I ask that young people have a parent or caregiver, an adult, somebody you trust and somebody you can count on and trust to listen to the show with you. And then they can help you if you have questions, right? So thanks, everybody, for being here. I really appreciate it. We're going to get right into this article. We're finishing this up. This is from the Mudrashram Institute of Spiritual Studies at www.mudrashram.com, MUDRASHRAM, mudrashram.com. And this article was written by George A. Boyd, 1992. It's a little bit old, but it doesn't matter. It's really good info. And we're looking at the last portion of this particular page, web page here, the section called Whole Self, Damaged Self. And I did pop the link in there, and it's all nearly to the bottom of the article, at least more than three-quarters of the way down there. It says the impact of growing up in a dysfunctional family takes its toll on individuals growing up in these families. And George A. Boyd says adults who grew up in these dysfunctional families may experience problems with addiction, overeating, chemical dependency, sexual compulsions, workaholism, or destructive gambling behavior. They may suffer from low self-esteem, not believing they deserve the good things in life. They may feel depressed or anxious and be uncertain why. They may self-sabotage their goals and dreams, fail to actualize their potentials, unwitting acting out on a life script written by early negative programming. They may have problems with making money, managing money, or settling down into a satisfactory career. They have difficulties with intimacy, forming close relationships, and dread letting go of a relationship, even when it is destructive. They report sexual dysfunction, sexual obsession, or lack of sexual desire. They may be troubled with health problems that derive from too much stress, failure to properly care for their nutrition, or get proper exercise or sleep, and being overly driven in their lives, not knowing when to let go or relax. Their acting out as adolescents may have interfered with their education, and their emotional tension may have interfered with their ability to concentrate and to study, limiting their job prospects, and confusion which affected their school performance. Their rebellion may have led to legal entanglements. They may be out of touch with their feelings and their spirituality and lack a sense of meaning in their lives, right? It says in some, they emerge from their stormy childhood with a damaged self. And so this is serious stuff for people, who have survived, who've lived in dysfunctional environments, or abusive homes, and grew up in this type of stuff. This is the sort of thing that can happen. It doesn't necessarily all happen, all to happen to a person, but people can take on some of these negative, sort of realities, really, from growing up in a dysfunctional home or an abusive environment, right? So that's why it's so important to take like George A. Boyd was explaining yesterday, to do a self-assessment, to look and see what kind of damaging behaviors we've picked up along the way from being around this stuff, this negativity, and really look and see what we're doing, and that's what I've been doing, right? That's over the course of 4 years, really taking a look at, what am I doing in my life that's keeping me from going forward, from, going after my dreams, or from taking care of myself. What am I doing to self-sabotage myself? And I'm probably still doing lots of things to self-sabotage myself. And some of it I recognize, some of it I don't. And that's why, it's sometimes hard for people to recognize some of these things, I think, because if you grow up in that and you've been doing it for so long, it may be just in your subconscious, and may not even realize that we're doing some of these things, right? But I know that myself, like he says, adults who grew up in these dysfunctional families may experience problems with addiction, overeating, chemical dependency, sexual compulsions, workaholism, or destructive gambling behavior. I mean, lots of people have addictions, and of all different kinds, you know what I mean? I'm an addictive personality. I definitely have that issue going on, with everything. If I have to stay really, I have to be careful what I'm doing, right? Because I have a total addictive personality. So the cigarettes is an issue with me. I mean, they're just like it's my security blanket, and for me to give up cigarettes is like somebody ripping my teddy bear out of my arms and saying, you can't ever have that teddy bear again, right? And that's exactly what it is, right? And it stems from my childhood. I know it does. You know what I mean? I'm looking for things to comfort me. And that's the one thing that actually, for some reason, does something for me. You know what I mean? And it's horrible, right? I need to quit. And the issue is I did quit for a year and 2 months, but started up again just due to stress and other stupid things, and started smoking again. And now to let go of them again, I know I can do it because I quit for a year and a bit, but my mind is addicted. It's not even my body. I mean, I was able to give them up, no problem, but my mind still, it's almost like being an alcoholic. You still want that drink, right? And so once an alcoholic, they say always an alcoholic, right? Because if you have another drink, you just be back into it. Same with cigarettes for me. It's the same issue, right? I mean, once a smoker, always a smoker. I've been smoking since I was like 12 years old. So, it's in my mind to smoke. That's what I do, right? So it's incredibly hard. I also have food addictions. I have all kinds of stuff. I don't have that binge eating thing, you know what I mean? But I just like to eat, and I have to be very, very careful because I use food for comfort and many other things. So, weight can come on me really quickly because I can eat a lot of food. So I have to be very careful, you know what I mean, what I'm doing. And my weight will not, my body will not support that weight. It never was supposed to. My frame is not that great. My, just injuries and old injuries and from car wrecks and everything else, my doctor actually told me not to put on weight. He says for your own health, you want to keep the weight off, right? And don't have very many children. If you do, just have one. This was an issue. Back when I was 18, they were concerned about my health. 12 years later, I lost my baby and had to have a bit of a physical, and they were concerned about my health at that point. They're just like, look, you really have to do something. You got to be careful. So I've never taken care of myself. Drug addictions to the age of 21. And we're talking serious drugs, not just smoking marijuana or something like this. I was doing a lot of crank and speed and, horrible drugs, and cocaine and just everything else I could get my hands on, acid and LSD and, everything like that. So, horrible drugs. And until the age of 20, about 21, right, is when I actually decided to get off the drugs. So, which is good. I was able to do that, but the cigarettes are the last thing, the remnant that hangs on to me. Like, I'm hanging on to it for dear life, right? So it's just something going on in my mind. I haven't been able to reach a comfort level in order to allow myself to let go of them. It's like letting go of a security blanket. It's going to have to happen within the mind. My body can definitely do it. I quit for a year and for 14 months and had problems physically not smoking. It was a mental issue. It was something going on in my mind, and it's all stemming from my comfort levels. It's like I'm trying to comfort myself, and that's the issue. It stems back to my childhood. I'm still trying to get that comfort from being abused. I'm still trying to get comfort. I want somebody to hold me. I missed out on all that as an infant. My mother was not capable of showing that type of love to me. She could not nurture me. She could not be that. She could not have that bond with me, right? And so I'm still looking for that, right? And my sweetheart can't do that for me. That's not, I need some sort of internal, nurturing. And so I'm having to do that myself. I'm still learning how to do that. And so it's a process, it takes time. I do feel a lot better than I did 4 years ago, that's for sure. But I'm still working through it. That's what I mean. And sometimes, I don't have the time to put into it, maybe like most people, because I work full time and I have to work full time. It's not a choice. It's not by choice. I mean, I'm working full time because I'll be on the street if I don't. So, I have to keep working. So that's I have to keep, a balance, right? So I don't have really a lot of time to work through my stuff. And people would say, well, go get on welfare or whatever. Well, no, that's not an option for me. And mainly because I don't want to end up in some sort of terrible housing unit with a lot of, people running around causing me a lot of grief. No thanks. Right now I'm just able to maintain, and I'll work through this stuff at my own pace. But the issue is whatever we do, we just need to make sure that we do reach out and get some help, you know what I mean? And for me, for me to stop smoking, it's going to have to be up to me, I'm going to have to want to realize at one point that, okay, I'm comfortable enough right now with myself and with everything that's going on, I can let go of these cigarettes, And so it's the same with any kind of, addiction. I think, people sometimes need to get help with these things, and sometimes we can do it ourselves, but it just depends. I got it by myself. And people say, wow, that's amazing. Well, it is, because most of my friends couldn't do it, and many of them are dead. And 2 of my brothers are dead because of drug overdoses, and one of my brothers was a cocaine addict, and he killed himself, but that's not why he killed himself. He was just a cocaine addict, but he committed suicide because he wanted to commit suicide. But the issue is a lot of people can't get off of drugs, and for me, it's something with these cigarettes. It's like it's a problem, right? It's like I'm still smoking. So, these things, sometimes we have to get help. And we have to look for help. We have to reach out and get some help with this stuff, right? So they may suffer from low self-esteem, not believing they deserve the good things in life. And I know that's not an issue for me. I believe that I deserve good things in life, but I do have a bit of self-esteem problems, mainly thinking that my work is not good enough, or that, people don't, maybe the boss doesn't like me. Maybe the boss doesn't like my work. It's always an issue of maybe I'm not quite good enough, right? And that stems from just growing up in a home being told that I was worthless, useless, and not wanted, right? So, you grow up hearing that enough. You start to feel that you're lesser than, you don't count, right? That you don't, your life really doesn't count. That's what I was made to feel as a child. So now as an adult, I have to always try to, it's almost like overachieve, it's like overachieving, even though I'm not a perfectionist, definitely not by any means. With anybody else, I don't expect anybody else to be perfect either, and I'm not, so. But I think it's just this idea that I'm always pushing to try to do the best job I can, just so that people will like what I'm doing. It's not even a matter of, is this good enough? Am I doing a good enough job? And being able to say, yes, I'm doing a good enough job, And I'm getting better as I'm getting older and get things, time goes by, right? You start to realize, hey, I'm doing the best job I can, right? I mean, you try, right? As long as you're trying and you're doing your best, right? I've had people tell me that over the years, and that's great. And I've been a supervisor myself, sort of a lower management. And I actually ran a kitchen, so it was kind of upper management for a while. But I know what it's like to encourage people. I know what it's like to tell people, no, you're doing great, and you're and seriously mean it. And so I know that these people mean it too when they tell me stuff like, well, no, you're doing great, your work is fine, but it's my own internal view of myself. That's what was damaged as a child, right? So it's not necessarily that I don't think other people like my work. It's like, am I good enough, right? So I'm always kind of wondering myself, do I really trust my own work? Do I think it's good enough? And a lot of times, that keeps people from doing things, right? Because people say, oh, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. I'm not that good at that, right? We put these limitations on ourselves a lot of times. And that's just from growing up, possibly hearing these things as a child. You'll never amount to anything, or, you can't do that. Look how how you are. Look how lazy you are, or whatever that people will, parents will, or caregivers will tell their children. Especially if they hear it over and over again, start to believe it. That you're just not quite good enough, to make it, right? And that's what I was made to feel as a child. So, I've had to kind of work to overcome that. It's just a lot of work. And it says they may feel depressed or anxious and be uncertain why. They may self-sabotage their goals and dreams, fail to actualize their potentials, unwitting acting out a life script written by early negative programming. And that's, an issue, feeling depressed or anxious. That's a huge issue. I feel that, it's not clinical depression because I'm always able to pull myself. And I think for a while there, I was really close to clinical depression, and that's right before I started my healing journey. But I was always kind of at the edge of that, you know what I mean? And that's why I was planning my suicides, you know what I mean? Life was not good for me, and I was not happy to be here on this planet many, many times throughout my life. And, those would be the real low points, and I would be thinking, man, I don't want to kill myself, but how am I going to get out of this pain? And that's what would keep me around, because I'd be saying to myself, I don't want to kill myself, but because my brother committed suicide, and my other brother really did too, because he just loaded himself with bags of pills all the time, dosed, and he would do this on a regular basis. It wasn't just one time. So he just fried his brain and his body, right? So basically just a slow death for him, right? But, I didn't want to go there. I was like, well, I don't know how to live. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know how to live, right? And I didn't even know that I should actually make a choice, right? I was like, well, the last time that happened, which was just about 4 years ago, actually it was 4 years ago, I was just sitting on the couch feeling the same way, just down and depressed and really, really in a funk, and thinking, this is horrible. How am I going to get out of this pain? Again, wanting to self-sabotage and feeling depressed and down. And like that, since I made the decision to, get help and actually, deal with this stuff and work through my healing journey, though, and I made a commitment to myself, really. I didn't make a commitment to anybody else, just to myself, that I would stick around and that this is it. I would no longer ever plan my suicides or think about suicide. Nope, I'm here, and that's a really good feeling for me because it did help me to get through and realize that, hey, no, it's up to me if I really want to heal. It's truly up to me, and it's up to me if I want to have a good life. There's nobody that can do it for me, So I had to realize that myself before I could really see that I needed myself to heal, right? But I do, everybody gets depressed now and then, and I think that's normal. I think it's just that when we can't pull ourselves out of those depressed periods and depressed states, and starts to affect our life, like our job performance, or our, just our life with our own, families, if we have families and friends and whatnot. It's a serious issue. If a person's starting to, really get to the point where they can't function, they can't live, it's a real problem. So many people do suffer with depression. My mother was diagnosed manic depressive, and so was my brother, actually, the one that killed himself. And so they were diagnosed manic depressive, and nowadays I kind of think they call that bipolar. So, I've never been diagnosed, right? But I kind of made a commitment to myself years ago that if I started to go the way that my brother did, and or even my dad or my mom, that I would go and get clinical help. You know what I mean? Because I thought, this is my responsibility as an adult, right? And if I'm going to start hurting myself or other people, then I need help, right? And I need to realize that and remember that. And so that was something that was kind of kept in the back of my mind, and which is pretty much why I would, make the choice to not end my life, right? Because at the end of the road, I'd be like, at the end of the night, I'd be like, well, no, tomorrow's another day, right? Just deal with this stuff. But I know what it's like to be at that point and to be so down and so depressed and out. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrific. It's a bad place to be. And when I started to reach out, and all these hands started to reach out to me, that made such a huge difference in my life. And I think, even if you don't want to, get counseling or a therapist or whatever, but, if you have a good friend you can talk to, if you don't have a good friend, call a crisis line, but call somebody and talk to somebody, right? It's very important. And they said that, they may self-sabotage their goals and dreams. That's another issue, because people may feel, well, I can't do it, or it'll never happen. So they don't want to set themselves up for a fall, right? So many people that have been hurt, in these dysfunctional families and abusive families don't want to be hurt anymore. So quite often people will shut down. And they'll shut down everything. They'll shut down the ability to have a relationship with people. They'll shut down their ability to allow themselves to heal. They'll shut down they'll shut down everything, including their dreams and goals, because if they think, well, if I don't reach that goal or that dream, if it never comes true, I'll be just that much more bummed out. Life will just be that much more worse. So I'm just not going to allow myself to dream. And I know that's exactly what happened to my mom. Her goals and dreams. She used to talk about stuff like she wanted to be an artist, and my mother was definitely an artist. She could draw like the most awesome people, real life people. She was gifted, very gifted, and she wanted to draw for magazines like Sears Roebuck. Back in the old days, especially like the 40s and the 50s. Sears Roebuck and those those companies that had those magazines had people sketched in them with the clothing and whatnot. Well, my mom could draw like that. My mother was very gifted. She wanted to be an artist, and her dreams were not realized, right? And her family life, having children, didn't do it for her. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people, like parents who have children and stuff, the children just are everything to them, and they love those children, and that's their life, and they're happy. That's what they want, right? There's so many people that are like that. They want those children, and it makes them happy, and they're happy in their marriage, and they're, everything is good, right? But not everybody's like that. And not everybody has children and actually wanted that, right? And sometimes people think they want that, so they pop out a bunch of kids, and then they realize that's not what they wanted at all. And what I think is really, I always used to think, well, it's good that my mom's honest, because at least I know where I stand with her, because I didn't have to think, okay, my mom loves me, and then find out one day that she doesn't. That would have been pretty heartbreaking. She was honest from the start that she didn't care and didn't want me, and didn't love me. You know what I mean? So at least I didn't have to go through this wishy-washy, I love you, and then no, no, I don't love you, sort of thing, right? So that was kind of good. But the thing is, I kind of thought in my own mind, I thought, we kids have to, and it should stand for something, because I loved my brothers and sisters. And I used to think, well, we must be, worth something to my mom and dad, especially when I got older and started to be cognitive about this stuff. And, my mom, that just wasn't going to do it for her. She didn't want children. She didn't want that marriage. And she was just miserable. And she gave up on all of her dreams and all of her goals. And this is horrible. So many people will do that. They'll self-sabotage their dreams and their goals. But first of all, you have to sit down and you have to think, what are my goals? What are my dreams? What did I want to do? What do I want to do? What do I want to do in the future? What do I want to do now, right? What do I want to see happen right away? And you've got to do this in stages, right? Not everything's going to happen all at once. And it takes time to actually, realize what they are. And these goals and dreams, right? So I think what's important that we all look for that stuff. That's the good stuff in life. You know what I mean? And but we can't be unrealistic. And that's where I'm kind of, I have an issue where I always want to get, from point A to B with no work in between. I just want my goal just to happen, and then that's great, right? But it's not gonna. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it takes time and it takes a lot of work. So some things just don't happen, and we don't realize those dreams right away or those goals, right? So it's important not to give up. And that's I know that, right? I'm smart enough to figure that one out. So, it's sad to see people do that, just completely give up on their dreams and their goals, and because they just don't want any more pain in their life of not being able to realize those dreams and goals. I have so many goals and dreams. I want to have a bed and breakfast. There's so many things I want to do, but to me, it's not everything. You know what I mean? Like, I don't put my whole hopes into all that stuff. Right? Because it's like it may happen and it may not. So then at the end of the road, I'm not going to sit back and say, oh, it didn't happen, so my, the whole thing was just worthless. That's what my mother did, on her deathbed, or the year before she passed away. She made this issue that, her life was so horrible that she was just like, it was, all of you were worthless. Everything was worthless. Nothing mattered to me. That's what she told me, right? I was just like, you got to be kidding me. We had to count for something, you know what I mean? Even though, even with the abuse and the garbage going on, I thought, you should at least say, well, at least, I did love my children or something. That's kind of what I was looking for, to hear from her. No. She was so miserable because she had given up on herself. She gave up on life. She had the opportunity to not do that. She had the opportunity to get out of that marriage. She had the opportunity to get away from my dad at any point. She was not tied up down in the basement, But she chose to stay in that dead space of a marriage, because that's exactly what it was, death, right? And the whole thing was dead. Our home was dead. There was no life in that home, you know what I mean? And she chose to stay there, right? And then, at the end of the road was unhappy with her life. And really she did that to herself. She had every opportunity to get out, but she was tied up in her mind. That's what I tell people, that her mind was tied up. My dad didn't have her tied up down in the basement. She was tied up in her mind. She did not realize that she could break free, that she could be her own person, that she could go after her goals and dreams. And even my older siblings would tell her, Mom, if you want to go, just go. Leave us here with Dad. We don't care. We'll deal with that. But you go. Get yourself a life. You're a person, right? And you need to go after your goals and your dreams, right? And she would cry and she would cry and she would cry. She wanted to go so bad, and she would stay. And why would she? I don't know why she would stay. The courts wanted to remove us from the home anyway. See, they made the wrong choice for themselves, and so we paid the price for that, right? This is sad. It's so incredibly sad. Do not do that to your children. Do not do that to yourself. You know what I mean? We have to sit down and we have to realize who we are and what we're made of. And if our children are going to ever have a healthy life, we have to be healthy as parents, right? I'm not a parent because I threw. That's too bad, but that's the way it goes. But the thing is I realized this situation with parents and children. Children will never ever be happy unless the parents are happy, and it's a core issue. It's a core bonding issue. And so parents, if you're a parent, you need to realize you have to live your life as well for yourself. You have to be content and happy in it, or your children will never be. Because your children have to know that you were part of that awesome, that they were part of that awesome part of you that makes you happy, that makes you, you know what I mean? And if they're not, then you're just going to destroy them, right? It's absolutely horrific. People do it all the time. And we have about a minute left, so we'll finish up the rest of this. We'll talk about tomorrow. We'll talk about failing to actualize potentials and its unwitting acting out life scripts written by early negative programming and whatnot. So we'll take a look at the rest of this. It's very good information. I know for me, because it really makes me think and it makes me get right into it. So, make sure you reach out, get some help if you don't have somebody to talk to. Sometimes we can't get a hold of people too. That's an issue. So if you can't get a hold of somebody and you don't have anybody to talk to, you make sure you call the crisis line. I say this on every show, but it's so important to me that you stick around, because I stuck around. Everybody else has to stick around. Make sure you get some help. If you need help and you can't do self-help, then you reach out to somebody, counselor, therapist, I don't care, crisis line, somebody. but do not suffer on your own and give up. Never give up, right? Not ever. That is my message, and that's what I'm here to talk about. That's why I'm doing these shows. Otherwise, I wouldn't be bothered, right? So thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Take good care of yourselves. I'll be back on tonight on Dreamcatchers Talk Radio, and then tomorrow morning, same time, same place, 6 o'clock here for One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. Take good care of yourselves, everybody. I'll keep you in my heart. Bye-bye.